picture this. You're sitting at your desk, maybe, reviewing some translation notes or something, totally focused, and suddenly your phone starts ringing.
Oh, no.
Right. It's an unknown number. And, just instinctively that you have to answer it in English. And if you're like most language learners, in that exact microsecond, your heart just drops. You completely freeze up.
Oh, absolutely. Your working memory it basically evaporates.
Yeah.
And your brain is screaming like, please, just let this go to voicemail so I can send an email instead.
Yes, exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are talking directly to you, our B+ level linguistics and translation students, about the absolute minefield that is professional phone communication.
Yeah, it really is a minefield.
It totally is. And we're looking at this through a really specific lens today. We've gathered this massive stack of sources, but, we aren't just going to read them to you like a textbook.
Right. Nobody wants that.
Exactly. So we're cross-referencing corporate etiquette data from places like Reply and Superstaff and Quo, and we're combining that with structural scheduling materials from the British Council and phrase glossaries from English Club and Cold Lucky.
Which are super helpful, by the way.
So helpful. And then we're going to stress test all of that against real-world conversational transcripts from English learning YouTube channels like Kindle English.
Yeah, because the mission today isn't about handing you some basic list of vocabulary words. I mean, at a B+ level, your vocabulary is already quite robust.
Right. You guys already know the words.
Exactly. The goal here is to really decode the pragmatic markers and the hidden rules of these calls. We want to understand the linguistic mechanisms behind, why certain phrases build trust or how they navigate cultural nuances. And really how to manage your own cognitive load when every single visual cue you usually rely on is just completely stripped away.
Because, making a professional phone call in a second language is basically like performing a live radio play.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's so true.
Right. You don't have your hands to gesture with to explain a complex idea. You don't have your facial expressions to save you or, to show empathy when you stumble.
Yeah, you just have the raw sound of your voice.
Just your voice. And that radio play analogy, it actually aligns perfectly with the research from Superstaff.
Right. The Superstaff data is fascinating.
Yeah.
It quantifies exactly why that scenario feels so paralyzing.
Yeah.
Because in a normal face-to-face communication, a staggering 55% of our meaning is derived from nonverbal cues.
Wait, 55%?
Yeah, 55. So that's body language, eye contact, your posture.
So over half of your communication toolkit is just, gone.
Gone, entirely gone. And then another 38% comes from vocal elements.
Like tone.
Exactly. Tone, your pitch, your pacing. Which means only 7% of the communicative impact comes from the actual lexical items, like the actual words you use.
Wow, only 7% is the words.
Right. So when you're on a phone call, that 55% nonverbal chunk just vanishes into thin air. You are suddenly relying on just tone and word choice to do the heavy lifting of an entire face-to-face interaction.
That is wild.
And the cognitive tax that places on a second language speaker, it's just enormous.
Which really means that the second you pick up that ringing phone, the clock is ticking on your first impression. So let's unpack the linguistics of simply answering the phone, because it's not a universal standard, right?
No, not at all. The pragmatic expectations change wildly depending on where the caller is actually from.
Yeah, and the Kindle English transcript gave a brilliant breakdown of these cultural openers. Like, if you're dealing with the US or Canada, the communication style is highly low context. It's very direct.
Very direct. You just pick up and say, hello, this is, and then your name.
Right. It's efficient. It prioritizes the transaction. But then if you shift over to the UK, older generations or, more formal businesses often announce themselves almost like a royal arrival.
Yes. Like the Murphy residence.
Exactly. Or they rely heavily on what linguists refer to as polite buffer phrases. Like, sorry to bother you, but before they even state their business.
It's that classic British apology for simply existing on the phone line.
I know, it's so funny. But it works, right? It establishes social harmony before getting to the actual point.
It does, yeah. But they contrast both of those with Australia, where it's much more casual and breezy. They might say good day and then their name, speaking.
Oh, I actually use that one myself all the time.
The adding speaking part.
Okay. Think about the cognitive load on the caller's end for a second. When you just say, hello, John, there is this microsecond where the caller's brain has to parse, wait, is this John Or is this person looking for John?
Oh, it's a great point.
Right. But by adding speaking, you instantly validate your identity. It completely circumvents that super awkward "who is this" pause.
It's a tiny functional addition,
Yeah,
but it does a massive amount of communicative heavy lifting.
totally. It's highly efficient. But, you see a lot of these corporate etiquette guides, like the ones from Quo, and they suggest that the key to delivering these greetings successfully is just to project natural confidence.
Ah, yes. Just smile, take a breath, and be confident.
Yeah, and I am going to push back hard on those corporate guides right now, because telling a non-native speaker to just be naturally confident when answering an unexpected phone call is, frankly, useless advice.
It really is easier said than done.
It is. Let's look at the reality here. The Superstaff data reveals that up to 75% of people suffer from glossophobia.
The fear of public speaking.
Exactly. And phone anxiety is a massive subset of that. So nobody feels naturally confident navigating a professional minefield in a second language.
That's a really fair point. The anxiety is a physiological response. It's not just, a lack of preparation.
Right. So as someone who has been there and panicked and fumbled a million calls early in my career, here is a mentor tip that bridges those etiquette guides with just basic human biology.
Oh, lay it on us.
Confidence on the phone isn't a personality trait. It is a physical posture. If you are nervous, you need to stand up before you answer the phone.
Oh, wow. So using posture to basically override the nervous system.
Yes. Physically standing opens up your diaphragm. It allows you to take deeper, regulated breaths, and that naturally lowers the pitch of your voice.
Which is huge because a lower pitch subconsciously projects authority and calm to the listener.
Exactly. You are literally faking confidence with your respiratory system until your brain catches up and regulates your adrenaline.
That physiological hack is brilliant, especially because it addresses that 38% of communication that relies on vocal tone.
Yep.
But since that initial greeting only really buys you a few seconds of goodwill, we have to look at the trajectory of the entire conversation.
Right, because things will go wrong.
They always do. What happens when you've nailed the posture, you've delivered the perfect Australian greeting, but then the technology itself betrays you?
The inevitable glitch.
Yeah.
The connection drops, there's static, a siren goes by in the background.
Yeah.
For a B-plus learner, this is usually where the carefully rehearsed script completely falls apart and the panic sets in.
So let's act as linguistic translators for a moment here. Let's break down the specific idioms native speakers use for technical failures, drawing from those YouTube transcripts we reviewed.
Good idea.
Because relying on a textbook phrase like, "I am experiencing a poor connection," well, it just flags you as someone reading from a manual.
Yeah, it's grammatically flawless, but pragmatically it's super awkward.
Very. The natural alternatives are much more vivid. The core phrases are, "you're breaking up," and "it's cutting out."
And there's a nuanced semantic difference here that I think learners mix up a lot.
Definitely. Breaking up specifically refers to choppy, fragmented audio, like the voice is coming in pieces.
Right, whereas cutting out implies total silence. This sound completely dropped for a second or two.
Yeah. You're breaking up. It's such an evocative idiom for signal loss. I mean, nothing is physically fracturing, but it perfectly describes the auditory experience.
It totally does. And then, of course, there is the dreaded dropped call. The sources highlight that native speakers almost never say we were disconnected, unless, they are a pre-recorded automated voice.
Right. Nobody says that. Instead, they default to, "we got cut off."
We got cut off. That phrasing is an absolute lifesaver when you're trying to maintain a polite business relationship.
How so?
Well, linguistically, it's a passive construction. By saying we got cut off, it implies that the call ended suddenly and crucially, not by the choice of either speaker.
So it removes the blame.
Exactly. It completely removes agency and blame from the humans and places all the fault onto this invisible third party, the technology.
Which is so important because it preserves the social harmony.
Which is critical because when social harmony feels threatened, we do really desperate things.
Oh, do tell.
Let me share a quick cautionary tale about faking calm when things go wrong. Years ago, I was on this super high-stakes business call, and the connection was just terrible. And on top of that, the client was speaking at lightning speed. My working memory just maxed out. I had a total cognitive blank.
That is the absolute worst case scenario.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I was so desperate to preserve my quote-unquote professional image that I just kept offering these hollow, verbal nods.
Yeah, just saying.
Yeah, I kept saying, yes, exactly. Oh, completely.
Ah.
I fully pretended to understand. And the next thing I know, the client says, great. The line clicks, and I get abruptly transferred to a completely different department.
Wait, you agreed to a transfer without knowing it?
I blindly agreed to it. I had to hang up, call the client back, and start the whole humiliating process over again.
Oh, my God.
It completely destroyed any illusion of competence I was trying to project.
Well, that highlights exactly why pretending to understand is the most dangerous pragmatic choice you can make. It doesn't solve the comprehension issue.
No, it doesn't.
It merely delays the confusion until a much more awkward, high-stakes moment.
Exactly. So let's look at the linguistic alternatives. How do you stall or, ask for clarification without sounding like your language skills are failing?
Well, you use what the Kindle English hosts refer to as basic communication maintenance phrases.
Okay. Basic communication maintenance.
Yeah, and the absolute magic phrase here, and this is something every B-plus student should memorize, is... Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you say it again?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. It's an incredibly soft approach.
It is. And notice what it doesn't say. You aren't saying, I don't understand, which centers the failure on your own cognitive or linguistic deficit.
Right.
And you aren't saying you are speaking too fast, which is an accusation that threatens the other person's ego.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah, saying I didn't quite catch that treats the spoken information as if it were just this physical object that happened to slip through your fingers. Once again, it shifts the blame away from your English skills and onto the environmental situation.
It's a brilliant deflection, and it actually pairs perfectly with another essential structural tool we found in the Code Lucky and British Council sources.
Taking messages.
Yes, taking messages and reading information back. For our linguistics students, the readback isn't just a polite customer service habit. It is a vital cognitive hack.
Break down the cognitive mechanics of that for a second.
Okay, so let's say you're confirming a complex dental appointment or maybe taking down a project deadline. You say, let me read that back to you. Tuesday the 14th at 3 p.m. Functionally, yes, this prevents real-world scheduling errors, but neurologically, for a non-native speaker, it acts as a mental buffer.
Because you aren't generating new language.
Exactly. When you read back data, you temporarily bypass the language generation centers of your brain.
Yeah.
You don't have to formulate original text, you are simply reciting.
Wow.
This buys your brain an extra, 5 seconds of low-effort processing time to consolidate what you just heard. It allows your working memory to clear out and reset for the next phase of the conversation.
That makes perfect sense. You're basically giving your neural pathways a momentary rest.
Yep.
Which really brings us to the most complex challenge, managing the actual flow of dialogue when it involves friction. Because surviving a technical glitch or taking down a date is one thing.
Right.
But how do you handle pauses, or stall for time, or even disagree with a client without violating the pragmatic rules of politeness?
Ah, the art of the polite pivot. This is intensely difficult because the human brain's natural instinct, when faced with dead air on a phone call, is to just fill it with noise.
We just panic.
We totally panic. We flood the silence with fillers like, But if you're a non-native speaker, sometimes you legitimately need 3 solid seconds to mentally translate a thought or, retrieve a specific vocabulary word.
Definitely.
So how do you stall on a professional call without sounding unsure or incompetent?
You have to embrace the linguistics of stalling. The Kindle English podcast offers a fantastic solution here. You deploy human buffering phrases.
Human buffering, like a loading icon on a slow computer.
Precisely. Instead of stringing together a bunch of anxious ums and lordias, you use a deliberate, pre-formulated phrase.
Like what?
You say, bear with me 1 second. Well, let me think about that. When you say, bear with me, which essentially just means be patient with me, it sounds composed. It sounds deliberate.
Yeah, it really does.
It signals to the caller, I am actively processing this information. I haven't frozen. It takes control of the pause, rather than letting the pause control you.
I love that. It frames the silence as thoughtful consideration rather than linguistic panic. It almost sounds like you're doing them a favor by thinking so deeply about their request.
Exactly. Now, what about when you have to actually disagree? This is another massive hurdle where direct translations fail spectacularly.
And they really do.
In many languages, a blunt refusal is perfectly acceptable. But direct translations into English can sound incredibly hostile.
Yeah, a flat, no, that doesn't work. Might be grammatically flawless, but pragmatically, it's a disaster.
Total disaster.
It sounds like you are literally slamming a door in their face. It violates what linguists call face-saving theory, you are threatening the positive face of the caller.
You're threatening their ego. English relies heavily on softeners to protect that ego, especially in professional contexts. You don't reject an idea outright, you cushion it.
Right, you need a cushion.
So instead of a flat no, you use hedging and modal verbs. You say, that's a bit tricky for me. Would Tuesday work?
Using a bit tricky instead of impossible.
Yes.
And substituting will Tuesday work with the modal, would Tuesday work? It just creates distance and softens the blow.
Or if you need to change your mind mid-sentence, which, by the way, native speakers do constantly, you don't just abruptly flip your stance.
What do you do instead?
You update your opinion in real time, aloud. You say, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, nice.
This verbalizes your thought process. It signals to the listener that you are integrating new information, which makes the pivot feel collaborative rather than contradictory.
These are such subtle, pragmatic shifts, but they completely change the emotional temperature of the call.
They really do.
And speaking of emotional temperature, there is a massive trap I see B-plus learners fall into all the time based on the superstaff materials. I call it the sorry for my English trap.
Ah, the preemptive apology.
Yes. So many really capable learners start a call by saying, "Hello, I am sorry, my English is not very good."
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Right. They think they're managing expectations, or maybe they made a tiny grammatical error and feel an overwhelming need to atone for it. But it is the worst thing you can do for your professional image.
Because it radically shifts the power dynamic.
It does. It actually makes the native speaker on the other end more anxious. You are suddenly taking the emotional burden of the conversation and dumping it squarely on their shoulders.
Now they have to worry about speaking perfectly.
Exactly. Or they feel a sense of pity for you. Or, worst of all, they subconsciously lower their estimation of your professional competence before the meeting has even really begun.
Wow. So the strategy here really has to be faking the confidence.
Yes.
And if you're genuinely struggling in that moment, how do you project that confidence linguistically?
You lean into the mechanical controls we discussed. First, intentionally slow down your pace.
Because adrenaline speeds us up.
Right. Adrenaline makes us speak faster, which exacerbates pronunciation issues and just makes us harder to understand. Slowing down naturally projects authority.
Okay, slow down. What's second?
Second, smile while you speak. As cliche as it sounds, it alters the shape of your vocal tract and naturally warms your vocal tone.
The listener can literally hear the smile.
They can. And third, lean on simple functional sentence structures. You do not need to construct a complex sentence with a perfect subjunctive clause just to book a Tuesday meeting.
Function beats flawless grammar.
Every time.
That is the core tenet of real-world applied linguistics. If the message is received and understood, the communication was successful, regardless of a dropped article or a misplaced preposition. Which brings us to the final and arguably most psychologically crucial part of any call, the landing.
The landing. Because you can execute the greeting perfectly, navigate a terrible connection like a pro, pivot smoothly using modal verbs. But if you fumble the ending, that awkwardness is literally the only thing the caller will remember.
And that is not just an anecdotal observation. It is rooted in a well-documented cognitive bias known as the recency effect.
The recency effect.
Yeah, the Quo Etiquette guide dives deep into this. The recency effect dictates that human memory disproportionately weighs the last thing it hears or experiences.
Right.
So a botched, rushed, or overly abrupt ending casts a long negative shadow backward over the entire 20-minute call you just had.
It retroactively ruins the vibe of the whole interaction.
Exactly. And the business stakes attached to that cognitive bias are incredibly high. Quo's data shows that 43% of customers will not return after a single bad service experience.
43%.
Yeah. If your call ends on a confused or seemingly rude note, you risk losing almost half of your clients permanently.
That is terrifying. So how do we stick the landing linguistically?
Well, the sources provide a very clean three-part template for wrapping up. You must always explicitly signal the end of the call, summarize the actionable next steps, and thank them.
Okay. Signal, summarize, thank.
But the tone and specific phrasing of that ending depend heavily on the context of the call. For instance, if you've just spent 20 minutes handling a highly difficult complaint, you need to soften the resolution.
And the YouTube channel Speak English Daily offered a phenomenal tip for this specific scenario.
Oh yes, the phrase to diffuse tension.
Exactly. Instead of relying on a repetitive apology like sorry again for the problem, she suggests ending with, I really appreciate your patience.
It's a brilliant pragmatic flip.
It truly is. I appreciate your patience takes a negative situation, their anger or frustration, and reframes it as a positive character trait of the caller.
You're calling them patient even if they weren't.
Right. You are validating their emotional state while maintaining your own professional dignity. It closes the interaction with genuine warmth rather than stiff, defensive corporate politeness.
Now, assuming it wasn't a tense complaint call, but just a standard professional check-in, the way you actually maneuver to hang up the phone is a fascinating study in cultural pragmatics.
The goodbye loop. We absolutely have to talk about this phenomenon.
The Kindle English transcript hilariously breaks down the UK goodbye loop.
It's so funny.
It is. In British culture, and to some extent in Canadian and Australian culture, it is considered socially abrupt to just say bye and terminate the connection.
Too direct.
Way too direct. So speakers end up stacking multiple closing phrases on top of each other. It sounds something like, yeah, thanks so much. Take care. Bye now. Cheers. Bye-bye.
It is a complete verbal dance where nobody wants to be the first person to leave the room.
Totally.
I have seen so many language learners get completely trapped in this loop. They hear the British person say bye, so the learner says bye, but then the British person follows up with take care.
So the learner feels socially obligated to reply you too.
And it just spirals. They literally don't know when they have social permission to press the red end call button.
They are held hostage by politeness.
Yeah.
But then contrast that intricate dance with a highly transactional U.S. business ending. In American corporate culture, time is prioritized over prolonged social bonding. A standard closing is incredibly brisk and low context.
Like, great, talk soon, click.
Exactly. Great. Talk soon. Click.
If you aren't used to it, that abruptness can feel almost aggressive. But in its native context, it's just efficient. It's not a slight against you.
Not at all.
So for our learners out there, the rule is to read the room and mirror the pragmatics of your conversational partner. If you're talking to a London office, prepare to participate in the goodbye loop. Offer a thanks, take care, bye.
Right.
But if you're talking to New York, thanks, talk soon is perfectly polite.
It all comes down to pragmatic mirroring. Adapting your structural approach to match the cultural expectations of the person on the other end of the line.
Definitely. All right, let's do a quick final recap of the frameworks we covered today.
Sounds good.
We promised to decode the hidden rules of English phone calls. When that phone rings, stand up to open your diaphragm and naturally lower your pitch.
Use your human buffer phrases like, bear with me 1 second, to buy your working memory some processing time.
Read back important details to bypass language generation and calm your nerves. Never preemptively apologize for your English and shift the emotional burden.
And above all else, remember that clear function and pragmatic awareness beat flawless grammar every single time.
Absolutely.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave our translation and linguistics students with one final fascinating concept to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We talked extensively today about what happens when visual cues vanish. Well, the English Club source highlights the ultimate linguistic tool native English speakers use when a phone connection is terrible, accents are thick, and visuals are completely gone.
Which is?
The NATO phonetic alphabet.
Oh. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta.
Exactly. Native speakers default to this highly specific, globally recognized military alphabet to spell out critical information over the phone.
That's so true. We do.
So here's my provocative question for you to explore on your own. How does your native language handle spelling out letters over a bad phone line?
That is a fascinating angle.
Right. Do you default to famous cities? Do you use common first names? Or has your culture developed something else entirely? Think about that deeply ingrained cultural reflex. The next time you have to spell your own complex surname on an English call, how would you translate that instinct?
Do you adopt the NATO alphabet or do you invent your own bridging system?
Exactly. It is a wonderful exercise in comparative linguistics.
Think about how you buffer, how you pivot, and how you spell when the visual world disappears. Navigating these professional calls isn't about having a perfect, rigid script.
Not at all.
It's about understanding the underlying mechanics of human interaction so you can keep the radio play moving forward even when you drop your lines.
Well said.
Stand tall, take a deep breath, and the next time that unknown number pops up, you'll know exactly the linguistic tools to reach for. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Talk soon.
Take care. Bye now.